The message came at 3:47 in the morning, Earth Standard Time. Lieutenant Junho Beek sat alone in the communications room of Horizon Gate, the largest orbital station humanity had ever built. His coffee had gone cold hours ago. His eyes burned from staring at screens all night. He almost missed it. A single, encrypted transmission. Hidden inside normal space traffic like a poison needle in a haystack, Junho's fingers moved fast across his keyboard. He had always been good at puzzles. His mother used to joke that he could find secrets in an empty room. Tonight, that skill would change everything. The encryption broke after 47 minutes. Junho read the message once, then twice, then a third time, because his brain refused to believe what his eyes were seeing. The Galactic Council, the ancient alliance of 12 alien species that ruled most of the known galaxy, had voted. The decision was unanimous. Humanity was to be cleansed from existence. They had 72 hours to surrender completely, or face total destruction. Junho's hands shook as he contacted Admiral Taiho Kim. The admiral arrived within the hour. He was a tall man in his 60s, with gray hair cut short and eyes that had seen too many battles. He read the message in silence. His face showed nothing. Not fear, not anger. Nothing at all. "How many ships do they have?" Junho asked. His voice cracked slightly. "Intelligence says over 10,000 in their main fleet," Taiho replied calmly. "We have 47. Junho felt his stomach drop. "Then it's over. We can't fight those numbers." Taiho looked at the young lieutenant. A small smile crossed his weathered face. "Who said anything about fair numbers?" Within 6 hours, every leader on Earth had gathered in the United Assembly Hall. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, scientists, they all sat in rows of seats that rose up like steps in a great theater. Fear hung in the air like smoke. Taiho stood at the center, alone on the main stage. Behind him, a massive screen displayed the council's message for all to see. "They call us primitive," Taiho began, his voice steady and clear. "They say we breed too fast, consume too much, and fight too often. They believe we are dangerous animals that must be put down before we spread across the stars." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some leaders were already whispering about surrender. Perhaps they could negotiate. Perhaps they could offer something: resources, territory, anything. Taiho raised his hand, and silence fell. 50 years ago," he continued, "our first explorers found ruins on Mars. Ancient structures left by a species that died long before Earth even had life. We studied those ruins in secret. We learned things the Council doesn't know we learned." He pressed a button and the screen changed. It showed images of massive weapons platforms hidden in the asteroid belt. Ships unlike anything publicly known, sleek and dark, designed for one purpose only. "We always knew this day might come," Taiho said. "Humans have a gift for paranoia. We prepare for the worst because we know the worst is always possible. The Council thinks we are helpless children. They are wrong." A woman in the front row stood up. She was the president of the European Federation, and her face was pale with fear. "Admiral, even with secret weapons, how can we possibly win? They have ruled the galaxy for 100,000 years. They have technology we cannot even imagine." Taiho nodded slowly. "You are right. They are old. They are powerful. They have won every war they have ever fought." He paused. "But they have never fought humans." He began to walk among the seats, speaking directly to the frightened faces around him. The Council species are specialists. Each one evolved for a specific purpose. The Veth are builders. The Korath are thinkers. The Mirai are traders. They work together because alone they are incomplete. But humans? He stopped and looked around the room. Humans are everything. We are builders and thinkers and traders and fighters. We adapt. We survive. We do whatever it takes. He returned to the stage and faced the assembly once more. "I will not lie to you. Many will die in the coming war. Perhaps most of us. But if we surrender, we die anyways lowly, as slaves, with our children taken and our culture erased. The Council does not want peace. They want extinction. The room was silent. Every eye was fixed on the Admiral. I say we give them a war they will never forget. I say we teach them why humans are feared. I say we show them that the species they call primitive has been fighting and surviving since before their ancestors crawled from the mud. He stood straight, his voice rising. They have numbers. They have technology. They have time. But we have something they will never understand. We have rage. We have love for our home. And we have absolutely nothing left to lose. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the president, who had questioned him, rose to her feet. She began to clap. One by one, others joined her. The sound grew until it filled the great hall like thunder. Taiho did not smile. There was no joy in what was coming. Only grim determination. Later that night, he stood alone on the observation deck of Horizon Gate, looking down at Earth. The blue planet glowed softly in the darkness of space. Billions of people lived down there, most of them unaware that their existence had just been marked for deletion. His communicator buzzed. It was Dr. Minho Lee, the chief scientist of their most secret project. Admiral, Project Blackfire is ready, Minho said. We can deploy within 48 hours, Taiho replied. And the ghost ships? Captain Unipark reports all 12 are in position. The Council fleet will never see them coming. Taiho nodded to himself. The pieces were falling into place. The Council expected terrified prey. They would find something very different. He thought about the alien ambassadors he had met over the years. Their smug smiles. Their barely hidden disgust when they looked at humans. They saw a young species barely out of its cradle, playing with dangerous toys. They had no idea humans had spent their entire history fighting each other. World wars, nuclear standoffs, terrorism, and genocide. They knew violence in ways the Council could never imagine. And now, for the first time, all of humanity would turn that violence outward, toward a common enemy. Taiho spoke softly into the empty room. His words meant for enemies who could not yet hear him. He wanted to hunt us. You should have studied your prey more carefully, because humans don't run. We don't hide. And when you corner us, we bite. Far below, Earth turned slowly in the endless night. And in the shadows of space, humanity prepared for war. Commander Thresh stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, and smiled. Behind his vessels stretched the greatest fleet ever assembled in Council history, 4,000 warships, each one capable of destroying a planet.
Ow.
The humans had 47 ships. This would not be a war. It would be an execution. How long until we reach their territory? He asked his navigation officer. 6 hours, Commander. You'll arrive at their outer colony first, a mining station called New Sol. Thresh nodded with satisfaction. He had studied humans briefly before the campaign. Small creatures, soft and weak, with short lifespans and fragile bodies. They had achieved faster-than-light travel only 30 years ago. Against the Council's 100,000 years of space civilization, they were infants. The fleet entered human space without resistance. Thresh expected this. What could the humans do? Send their tiny fleet to be crushed? No, they would hide and tremble and beg for mercy when the time came. But as hours passed, something strange happened. No ships appeared. No communications came. The mining station of New Sol was empty when they arrived. Every human had evacuated. Every piece of valuable equipment had been removed. Even the furniture was gone. They run like cowards, Thresh announced to his officers. Good, the hunt will be quick. He was wrong. Captain Unipark watched the Council fleet from the darkness of space. Her ship, the Silent Dawn, hung motionless behind a dead comet, completely invisible to enemy sensors. 11 other vessels waited with Hertha ghost ships, humanity's secret weapon. Una was 34 years old. She had been a fighter pilot, then a ship captain, then something else entirely. For the past 5 years, she had trained for exactly this moment. Her crew knew they might not survive the night. None of them cared. Wait for the signal, she told her team through the internal communicator. Her voice was calm, almost bored. Let them get comfortable. Let them think they've won. The Council fleet moved deeper into human space, spreading out to search for signs of resistance. This was their mistake. Spread out, they were vulnerable. Together, they were invincible. Apart, they could be picked off like wounded animals. Admiral Taiho's voice crackled through Yuna's earpiece. "Captain Park, you are cleared for operation. Show them what humans can do." Yuna smiled. It was not a kind smile. "With pleasure, Admiral." She pressed a single button, and the Silent Dawn activated its dark drive. The ship did not move through space. It stepped outside of space entirely, existing for a brief moment in somewhere else, before stepping back in directly behind a Council carrier. The carrier never saw them coming. Yuna's weapons officer fired a focused plasma lance straight into the enemy's engine core. The carrier exploded in a ball of blue fire that lit up the void for 1,000 kilometers. Before the debris had finished spreading, the Silent Dawn was gone again. It reappeared 300 kilometers away, behind another carrier. Another shot, another explosion. Across the battlefield, the other ghost ships did the same. They appeared from nowhere, struck with deadly accuracy, and vanished before return fire could even be aimed. In 12 minutes, the Council lost 23 ships without landing a single hit on their attackers. Commander Thresh stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. His officers shouted reports of attacks from impossible directions. "Where are they coming from?" he demanded. "How are they doing this?" No one could answer. The Council had ruled space for 100,000 years. They knew every form of faster-than-light travel that existed. What the humans were doing should have been impossible. But humans had a habit of doing impossible things. Yuna pulled her fleet back after the first strike. They had drawn blood, proven a point, but they could not defeat 4,000 ships with 12. Not yet. This was just the beginning. A message written in fire. The message was clear. "We are not afraid of you." On Mars, General Hannah Choi prepared for what would come next. She was 51 years old, a veteran of 3 colonial uprisings and countless smaller conflicts. Her soldiers called her the Iron Widow because she had lost her husband in the Europa Rebellion and had become harder than stone ever since. "They will come for Earth eventually," she told her assembled forces, "but first they must pass through us. Every colony, every station, every piece of rock we call home. We make them pay for every step." Her army was not really an army at all. It was made of miners, engineers, teachers, doctors, ordinary people who had been handed weapons and told their species was about to die. On paper, they should have been useless against professional Council soldiers, but Hannah knew something the Council did not. Humans were never more dangerous than when they were desperate. A trained soldier would fight until the battle was lost, then surrender. A desperate human would fight until their heart stopped beating. "We do not need to win every battle," she told her troops. "We need to make every battle cost them more than they can afford. We need to make them fear every shadow, every doorway, every breath of air. We need to become their nightmares." Far away in a hidden corner of the galaxy, Ambassador Cerise watched the reports coming in from the front lines. She was old even by Council standards, and she had served as a diplomat for 300 years. She had seen many species rise and fall, but she had never seen anything like humans. She had tried to warn the Council. She had read human history there. Endless wars, their atomic weapons, their capacity for self-destruction that somehow never quite destroyed them. They were not like other species. They did not make sense. Most species evolved toward peace as they advanced. Humans evolved toward more efficient violence. They turned everything into a weapon: science, art, even love. They fought for reasons no other species could understand. Cerise opened a secret channel and sent a message to Admiral Taiho Kim. It was treason, she knew. If the Council discovered what she was doing, she would be executed. But she had seen the future, and the Council was not in it. "Admiral," her message read, "I am Ambassador Cerise. I wish to help you, not because I believe your species is good. I'm not certain you are. But I believe mine has made a terrible error, and I would rather stand with the survivors than die with the fools." Taiho received the message while watching tactical reports of Yuna's successful raid. He read Cerise's words carefully, searching for traps or tricks. Finding none, he replied with a single line, Welcome to the winning side, Ambassador. We have much to discuss. In the void between stars, the Council fleet regrouped and continued its advance. Commander Thresh had lost ships, yes, but he still had thousands more. He told himself this was a minor setback. The humans had tricks, nothing more. Tricks could only delay the inevitable. He did not understand what he was facing, thought this was a war between civilizations. But for humans, it was something far more primal. It was survival. And humans had been surviving against impossible odds since the first of their kind. Stood upright on the plains of Africa and refused to be prey, the ghost ships faded back into the darkness, waiting for their next chance to strike. And somewhere on Earth, Dr. Minho Lee made final preparations for something that would change the war forever. The Council had wanted a quick execution. They were about to get a very long nightmare. Earth was silent. No radio signals. No television broadcasts. No satellite communications. The blue planet hung in space like a corpse, dark and quiet. Commander Thresh looked at it through the main viewport of his flagship and felt satisfied. They have given up, he announced to his bridge crew. The humans know they cannot win. Prepare landing forces for the surrender ceremony. His fleet had lost over 400 ships during the journey through human space. The ghost attacks had continued, unpredictable and deadly. But Thresh still commanded more than 3,000 warships. Against a silent, broken enemy, that was more than enough. He was about to make the worst mistake of his life. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. In a bunker that officially did not exist, Dr. Minho Lee sat at a control panel covered in switches and screens. He was 43 years old, thin and pale from years spent underground. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from excitement. Admiral, he spoke into his communicator. The Council fleet is in position. All vessels are within range. Taiho's voice came back, calm and cold. Activate Project Blackfire. Minho smiled and pressed a single red button. Across the solar system, hidden platforms awakened. They had been placed years ago, disguised as asteroids and space debris, invisible to any scanner. Each platform contained a weapon that humans had built from the secrets of the ancient. Martian ruin, something the galaxy had never seen. Artificial singularities. Miniature black holes. Stable for exactly 4.7 seconds before collapsing. The first wave launched without warning. Tiny points of absolute darkness appeared inside 400 Council ships simultaneously. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then space itself began to scream. The black holes pulled everything toward them with impossible force. Metal bent and tore. Crew members were stretched into thin streams of matter. Entire vessels collapsed into points smaller than a grain of sand. In less than 10 seconds, 400 ships simply ceased to exist. Commander Thresh watched in horror as his tactical display turned red with destruction. Ships vanished faster than he could count. Distress calls flooded every channel, overlapping into a wall of screaming static. "What is happening?" he shouted. "What weapon is this?" No one could answer. The Council had ruled space for 100,000 years. They had seen every weapon, every technology, every trick that existed. But they had never seen this. They had never imagined that anyone would be insane enough to weaponize black holes. But humans were exactly that insane. The second wave launched 30 seconds later. Another 300 ships died. Thresh finally gave the order to retreat, but it was too late. Admiral Taiho had planned for this moment. From behind Jupiter's moons, the human fleet emerged. 47 ships against thousands, but those 47 ships were positioned perfectly to block the retreat path. The Council fleet was trapped between the black hole weapons and the human warships. Captain Una Park led the charge. Her ghost ships struck first, appearing from nowhere to disable the largest Council carriers. Behind her came the main human fleet, smaller vessels moving with perfect coordination, targeting engines and weapon systems rather than trying to destroy ships outright. They did not need to destroy the Council fleet. They only needed to cripple it. On the surface of Mars, General Hannah Choi watched the battle through a tactical display. Her ground forces were ready, but she knew they would not be needed today. This battle would be won in space. She opened a communication channel to every frequency the Council used, making sure every alien ship could hear her words. "This is General Hannah Choi of the United Earth Defense Force. You came to our home to kill our children. You called us vermin. You thought we would bow down and die quietly?" She paused, letting the silence stretch. "You were wrong. We do not surrender. We do not forgive. And we never ever forget. Today, you learn what happens when you threaten humanity. Today, you learn why the galaxy should have left us alone." As she cut the transmission, there was nothing more to say. In space, the battle had become a slaughter. Council ships tried to flee in every direction, but the black hole platforms had been placed in a perfect sphere around Earth. There was no escape. Human vessels hunted the survivors like wolves chasing wounded deer. Commander Thresh stood on his burning bridge, watching everything he had built collapse around him. Half his fleet was gone. The other half was running without direction, discipline completely broken. His officers were dead or dying. His dreams of glory had turned to ashdot. A human voice came through his communication system. It was Admiral Taiho Kim. "Commander Thresh," the human said calmly, "your fleet is destroyed. Your mission has failed. You may surrender now, and your surviving crew will be treated with respect. Or you may continue fighting and die for nothing. The choice is yours." Thresh considered his options. Council officers were supposed to fight to the death. Surrender was considered the ultimate shame. But as he looked at the destruction around him, he realized something terrible. The humans were not fighting like a desperate species making a last stand. They were fighting like predators who had been waiting for this moment. They had never been afraid. They had been hunting. "I will not surrender," Thresh replied, his voice hollow. "But I will retreat. Any ships that can still move, follow me." We returned to Council space. Aho did not stop him. He let the broken remnants of the Council fleet limp away into the darkness. This was intentional. He wanted survivors. He wanted witnesses. He wanted the Council to know what was coming. As the last enemy ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, a strange silence fell over Earth's orbit. The battle was over. Humanity had won, not just survived, but decisively, completely won. Unipark docked her ship at Horizon Gate and walked to the observation deck. She found Admiral Taiho already there, staring out at Earth. The planet was lighting up again as communications resumed. Billions of people were celebrating without fully understanding what had happened. "We did it," Eunice said quietly. "We actually did it." Taiho nodded slowly. "We won the first battle. The war is just beginning. What happens now?" The Admiral turned to face her. His eyes were hard and cold, but something burned behind them, something that might have been anger or might have been hunger. "Now we attack. The Council wanted to exterminate us because they feared what we might become. It is time to show them they were right to be afraid." Far away, in the throne room of the Council homeworld, High Arbiter Volus received the reports of the disaster. His ancient face, which had not shown emotion in centuries, twisted with something he barely recognized. Fear the humans had not simply defeated his fleet. They had humiliated it. They had used weapons that should not exist, tactics that made no sense, and a ferocity that defied all understanding. Everything the Council believed about young species, about primitive civilizations, about the natural order of the galaxy, all of it was wrong. Volus had ordered the extermination of humanity because he thought they were dangerous animals that needed to be put down before they grew too strong. He had been right about one thing. They were dangerous. More dangerous than anything the galaxy had ever seen. And now they were angry. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. A species that had achieved space travel only 30 years ago was now cutting through Council territory like fire through dry grass. Human ships appeared without warning, destroyed everything of military value, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. They did not conquer. They did not occupy. They simply burned. Admiral Taiho Kim called it the Long March. His strategy was simple and brutal. The Council had spent 100,000 years building their civilization. Their power depended on supply lines, communication networks, and manufacturing centers spread across thousands of worlds. Destroy those things, and the Council would collapse from within. Captain Unipark led the most dangerous missions. Her ghost fleet had grown from 12 ships to 36, each one equipped with the dark drive technology that made them nearly impossible to track. She attacked fuel depots, sensor stations, and shipyards. She destroyed things the Council had spent centuries building. But her greatest mission was yet to come. Nexus Station was the symbolic heart of the Council. It was where the 12 founding species had first met, where they had signed their alliance, where every major decision had been made for 100,000 years. It was the most heavily defended location in Council space, protected by 1,000 warships and defensive systems that could destroy a small moon. Taiho gave Yuna the mission with a simple order: make a statement. She arrived at Nexus with only 12 ships, her original ghost fleet. 1,000 Council warships waited for her. Any sane commander would have retreated. Yuna was not sane by any normal standard. Her ships activated their dark drives and appeared inside the defensive perimeter, so close to Nexus Station that the Council ships could not fire without hitting their own sacred ground. For 30 seconds, chaos reigned as enemy vessels tried to reposition for a clear shot. 30 seconds was enough. Yuna's weapons officers targeted the station's main communication array and its defensive power core. 2 precise shots fired simultaneously. The array exploded in a shower of sparks. The power core went dark, leaving the station defenseless, before the Council fleet could respond. Yuna broadcast a message on every frequency, reaching every inhabited world in Council space. Her face appeared on screens across the galaxy, a human woman with cold eyes and a calm voice. "People of the Council," she said, "your leaders told you that humans were vermin to be exterminated. They said we were weak and primitive. They promised you a quick victory and a galaxy free from our presence." She paused, letting the words sink in. "They lied. Your leaders attacked us without cause. They tried to murder our children in their beds. And now they hide in their palaces, while their soldiers die for nothing. This station, your sacred nexus, stands defenseless before me. I could destroy it with a single command, but I will not. Because unlike your Council, humans do not wage war on symbols. We wage war on those who threaten our existence." She leaned closer to the camera. "Tell your leaders this: we are coming. Not for conquest. Not for revenge. For justice. The Council declared war against humanity. Now humanity will end the Council. Spread the word. Choose your side carefully, because when we arrive, there will be no mercy for those who stand against us." The transmission ended. Yuna's fleet vanished into dark space, leaving Nexus Station intact but humiliated. Across the galaxy, trillions of beings watched the recording again and again. The message was clear. Humanity could have destroyed the Council's most sacred site. They chose not to. That restraint was more terrifying than any act of destruction. The Council began to fracture. 3 member species, the Korath, the Velen, and the Sura, sent secret messages to Admiral Taiho, offering to surrender and join humanity's side. High Arbiter Volus discovered their betrayal and ordered their ambassadors executed in public. This was his second great mistake. The executions did not inspire loyalty. They inspired terror and hatred. The 3 species did not return to the Council. Instead, they openly defected to humanity, bringing with them detailed maps of Council defenses, lists of supply routes, and intelligence about internal conflicts. With this information, Taiho accelerated his campaign. Human ships struck Council targets with perfect accuracy. Manufacturing worlds fell silent. Military bases went dark. The great machine of Council civilization began to grind to a halt. On the colony world of Varith IV, General Hannah Choi finally got her ground war. Commander Thresh had retreated there with the remnants of his fleet, hoping to make a final stand. He had 10,000 soldiers, hardened veterans of 100 campaigns. Hannah had 5,000 humans, most of them former miners and factory workers. The battle lasted 6 days. Thresh's soldiers fought with skill and discipline, using tactics perfected over millennia. Hannah's soldiers fought with something else entirely, a desperate fury that refused to acknowledge defeat. They attacked through poison gas that should have killed them. They charged fortified positions with nothing but knives when their ammunition ran out. They kept fighting with wounds that would have stopped any other species. On the 6th day, Hannah personally led a squad into Thresh's command bunker. They found him surrounded by dead bodyguards, holding an empty weapon. He had expected to die fighting. Instead, Hannah ordered him captured alive. She wanted him to see what came next. Before his execution, Thresh asked her a question that had haunted him since the war began. How did you do this? Your species is 30 years old. We have ruled space for 100,000. How did you defeat us so completely? Hannah looked at him with something that might have been pity. You studied us before the war, she said. You learned about our music and our art. You read our poetry and watched our celebrations. You thought you understood us. She shook her head slowly. You should have studied our wars. You should have learned about our trenches and our bombs. You should have read about the things we did to each other before we ever reached the stars. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. Your species became peaceful as you advanced. You evolved past violence. We did not. We just found bigger weapons and better reasons to fight. You made us fight for survival. There is no more dangerous enemy in the universe than a human fighting for survival. Thresh was executed the next morning. His death was broadcast across the galaxy, a message to any who still thought resistance was possible. Back on Earth, Dr. Minho Lee presented Admiral Taiho with his latest project, a bioweapon capable of targeting specific genetic markers. It could theoretically eliminate any council species within weeks. Spreading from world to world like an unstoppable plague, Taiho listened to the presentation in silence. When Minho finished, the Admiral asked a single question. Can it be controlled? Can we limit its spread? Minho hesitated. Not with complete certainty. Once released, it would be difficult to contain. Taiho nodded slowly. Then we do not use it. Not unless we have no other choice. We are not fighting this war to become monsters. We are fighting to prove that humanity deserves to exist. If we commit genocide, we prove the Council was right about us. He locked the bioweapon data away in the most secure vault on Earth. It would remain there, unused, a reminder of the line humanity refused to cross. The war continued. The Council crumbled, and slowly, system by system, humanity marched toward the final battle. 1 year after the Council declared war on humanity, High Arbiter Volus sat alone in his throne room on Ethon Prime. The Great Hall had once hosted thousands of diplomats and dignitaries from across the galaxy. Now it was empty, silent, and cold. The fires that had burned in ceremonial braziers for 10,000 years had gone dark. The Council was finished. 9 of the 12 founding species had surrendered or been destroyed. The remaining 3 were fighting each other in desperate civil wars, their alliances shattered, their fleets broken. 100,000 years of galactic civilization had collapsed in 12 months, and through the great windows of the throne room, Volus could see human ships orbiting his world. He had stopped counting them after the first 1,000. They hung in space like patient predators, waiting. No bombardment came. No invasion forces landed. The humans simply waited, as if they had all the time in the universe. A door opened behind him. Volus did not turn around. He already knew who it was. Admiral Taiho Kim walked into the throne room, flanked by Captain Yuna Park and Dr. Minho Lee. They carried no visible weapons. They wore simple military uniforms without decoration or rank insignia. They looked like ordinary humans, small, soft, fragile. Volus finally turned to face them. He had lived for 800 years. He had ruled the galaxy for 3 centuries. He had ordered the deaths of billions without losing a moment's sleep. But when he looked into Taiho's eyes, he felt something he barely recognized. Fear. Why did you not simply destroy us? Volus asked. His voice was hoarse from days of silence. You have the power. You have the weapons. Why come here in person? Taiho stopped a few meters from the ancient throne. Because destruction is not our goal. It never was. Then what do you want? Submission. Admission. Understanding. Volus laughed bitterly. You want me to bow? After everything? You think I will kneel before creatures who were living in caves while my ancestors built empires? Unipark stepped forward, her hand resting casually on a weapon at her hip. You will do more than kneel. You will stand trial on Earth. You will confess your crimes to a galaxy-wide broadcast. You will tell every living being what you did and why you did it. And if I refuse? Minho Lee spoke for the first time, his voice soft and clinical. We have a bioweapon capable of eliminating your entire species within 3 weeks. Every man, woman, and child with your genetic markers would die. We have chosen not to use it because we are not monsters. But the choice remains ours to make. Volus stared at the thin scientist. There was no threat in Minho's voice, no anger. He was simply stating facts, like a doctor describing a terminal diagnosis. You would commit genocide, Volus asked. You would prove everything I said about your species was true? Taiho shook his head slowly. We have spent this entire war trying to prove you wrong. We have refused to use our most terrible weapons. We have shown mercy to enemies who showed us none. We have accepted surrenders when we could have demanded deaths. But understand this clearly. High Arbiter, mercy has limits. Push us too far, and you will see exactly what humanity is capable of. Silence filled the throne room. Volus looked at the 3 humans standing before him. They were so small, so seemingly weak. Yet they had broken an empire that had stood for 100 millennia. They had done the impossible again and again, until the impossible became ordinary. What are your terms? He finally asked. Taiho began to list them, his voice steady and without emotion. The council is dissolved permanently. All military vessels are surrendered to human oversight. All weapons research is terminated. The species that made up the council will govern their own worlds but will answer to a new authority, the Galactic Assembly. Any species that refuses these terms will face consequences. He paused and added one final condition. And every year, on the anniversary of your war declaration, every former council world will broadcast a message to the galaxy. The same message, without variation. 3 sentences. We attacked humanity. We were wrong. We will never threaten them again. Volus closed his eyes. The humiliation was complete. Not just defeat, but eternal acknowledgement of that defeat. Every year, forever, his people, and all the peoples of the council, would remind the galaxy of their greatest failure. No, he said quietly, I will not accept this. He reached beneath his robes and pressed a hidden switch. For 800 years, a self-destruct device had been built into the throne room, powerful enough to destroy the entire palace complex. If he was going to die, he would take these arrogant humans with him. Nothing happened. Minho Lee smiled slightly. We found that device 6 months ago. Human infiltrators have been on this planet for quite some time. Did you really think we would walk into a trap? Volus stared at the useless switch in his hand. For the first time in centuries, he felt truly helpless. The humans had not just beaten him, they had anticipated every move he could make. They had planned for everything. Unipark stepped forward and placed restraints on his wrists. High Arbiter Volus, you are under arrest for crimes against humanity. You will be transported to Earth for trial. Whatever sentence you receive will be broadcast to every inhabited world. She led him toward the door, and he did not resist. There was nothing left to resist with Taiho remained in the throne room. Walking slowly to the great windows, Dr. Minho Lee joined him. And together they looked out at the human fleet hanging in space. It's over, Minho said quietly. We won. Taiho nodded but did not smile. We won the war. Now we have to build the peace. That will be harder. Ambassador Cerise entered the throne room, having waited outside during the confrontation. She approached the 2 humans and stood beside them, looking out at the same view. What will humanity do now? She asked. You have the power to rule the galaxy. Will you become what the council was? Taiho considered the question carefully before answering. The council tried to exterminate us because they feared what we might become. They were right to be afraid, but not for the reasons they thought. They feared we would conquer and destroy. Instead, we will protect and build. We will be guardians, not rulers. We will ensure that no species ever again has the power to declare genocide against another. He turned to face Cerise directly. We will make mistakes. We are human, and humans are flawed. But we have learned something from this war. Survival is not enough. Victory is not enough. What matters is what you do with the power you gain. The Council used their power to control and destroy. We will use ours to connect and protect. Far away on Earth, celebrations had begun. Billions of people danced in the streets, knowing that the threat to their existence had finally ended. They did not know the details of what came next. They only knew that humanity had survived that the galaxy would never look at them the same way again. In the throne room of Ethon Prime, Admiral Taiho Kim looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the edge of the known galaxy, something else waited. The universe was vast and old and full of secrets. Humanity had conquered one challenge. Others would come, but whatever came, humanity would face it together. They would adapt. They would survive. They would fight if they had to, and make peace if they could, because that was what humans did. The era of the Council was over. The era of humanity had begun, and in the quiet darkness between the stars, something ancient stirred and began to wake, drawn by the noise of a young species that had just announced its presence to the universe in the loudest possible way. But that is a story for another time.